You dummy, they tell that to everybody. I had to check myself. So, and I did have a little laugh. I think they had sincerity in what they're saying, but I'm sure they have to tell that to several people that all think they ought to run for commissioner.
Well, here you are now, and you are taking that leap and jumping in. But this isn't your first rodeo with the County Commissioners Court. You were a few months.
Well, and the next part of that story was, I talked to Sammy several times. He had any number of things that if any one of them maybe could have given him a break, he could have maybe beat them all. But God's plan was to take him home. And Judge called me and said, Chuck, I just want you to know Sammy's passed, and we're going to have to fill that seat. And, just be aware of that. And I thought, oh, goodness. It came out later that we understood how that seat would be filled. There would be a process by which people would put their name in, resume in, to be considered by the judge of who would be appointed to serve until the next election.
Sure.
7 people put their name in, and judge chose me, which was incredibly flattering and a big honor, humbling at the same time.
Right.
But he chose me and said, Chuck, I trust you, but you're coming in during a very difficult time. And he wasn't joking. In June of 20, when Judge Peters swore me in, I began serving. First of all, staff's reeling from the loss of a very well-loved commissioner.
Right.
He was sick for some time, so there's a pretty good backlog of things to catch up with that he was working on. It was budget time, which is always challenging.
Right.
And think back of June of 20. I mean, people were terrified. We were told, I don't want to mention who, but we were told by an organization that we were going to have 30,000 casualties in Brazos County potentially.
Wow.
30,000 casualties. And no one understood really fully this pandemic. And because there were, and still are, varying reports of what's going on and what we ought to do to mitigate the risk, some people take it seriously, some don't. My good friend, Councilman Adcock, passed away yesterday. So this is a serious, it's very hard to know which direction to go, who to believe, and it was like that then. And how do you mitigate risk, and how do you keep your family and yourself healthy? Right. And that was all going on in June of 20, and businesses were shut down. My business was locked up. I couldn't even go to my building. So people I buy diamonds from were locked up for months after that. It was very challenging to be a jeweler during that time. Right. But as a new commissioner, that's what I walked into. And the analogy I use is the house was on fire. We were looking at A&M potentially being an online learning institution for the next 2 years. And if you look at those differences between city and county, county's budget is 75% property tax.
Yeah.
Property tax is assessed by tickets and sales. If all your restaurants are closed, if all your hotels are closed, if A&M's an online learning institution, the way that you pay for essential county services, and we're talking about, we have essential services for health and safety that we've got to pay for. People want to have roads. People want to have the county services, the buildings, everything that does, the health department.
Right.
And how are you going to pay for all of that and walk in as a new commissioner during budget cycle to figure that out while your property tax is potentially going to go away for some time? That is what I walked into. And it was an incredibly challenging time. Simultaneous to that, there were a lot of things going on. We can get to that with regard to my family, medically speaking. And one of my daughter's diagnosis at the time of an autoimmune disorder. So all of that was going on, and all I could do is thank God that he put me there, because I knew he had a reason. I knew I was there for some reason, and I swore in and served till the election. I was honored to do that. We started conversations that I felt needed to be had. So XYZ company's been paying taxes in Brazos County for decades and decades. Do they know how to bid on a county project? Do they know how to successfully potentially win a project where maybe they can earn some of those dollars back to their company, because that's what they do? Are we hiring glass companies from out of the county? Are we hiring concrete companies from out of the county? Do the local people know how to successfully bid on county projects? People that are in offices in Houston, Atlanta, and everywhere else, they know how to bid on a county project. Do our local people know how points are assessed on that? Do we have a process by which, if they didn't win a bid, Can they go in and kind of forensically look with purchasing? Why didn't I win that bid? What should I have done better? And those are the conversations I started having, and we had them. And now I think we've come a long way to making those businesses understand. And if you don't in your local business, go to the county website, because we've got it all posted there.
Yeah.
We started looking at, again, budget, right? So during a time where everyone thought budget was going to be a nightmare, and it was challenging, we lowered the tax rate. We lowered the tax rate during the pandemic. Looking at A&M being an online learning institution for the next 2 years, we asked for all staff to do a mandatory 10% cutback of your budget this year.
Okay.
I know that you're going to do without. I know it's hard. I know you're providing a service that's essential to the taxpayer paying for it. You got to cut 10% off the top.
Okay.
And every department came forward and did that heroically.
Wow.
And think about, when I say every department, think about a jail during a time of pandemic, while you have your jail with people that have COVID, and you have to keep them separate from that. Meanwhile, your staff also is in the community and being exposed to those people with COVID, and still having to operate your volunteer fire services. I mean, there's a lot to do when you say, oh, we're just getting everybody to take 10% off. There's a lot that goes into taking 10% off of those services.
Yeah.
But they did it. They did it so well. I was very proud of them, and allowed us to lower the tax rate and also start steering more toward the county reserve.